Miracle at Camp Friendship. Chapter 1. Adventure Ahead. Good night, Pudge. I'm so thankful you're home safe and sound. Mum kissed me on the cheek and closed the door. Safe and sound. Now there were 3 words that meant more than they ever had before. Let me explain. Most of the time, nothing exciting ever happens to me, Pudge Meekway. For those of you I haven't met before, I'm just your ordinary, freckle-faced 11-year-old. But when Mum said safe and sound, it made me thankful all over again that I know God in a personal way. I've always thought I was glad to be on His side. I had no idea how much it would mean to have Him on my side. I know better now and have found He is the best friend of all. I just had a nice hot shower and the best bedtime snack ever. I want to crawl under my nice warm covers and sleep like a caterpillar in his cocoon, but I can't until I explain those wet, muddy clothes hanging out of my clothes hamper. Then you will understand what safe and sound really means to me tonight. You see, less than 36 hours ago, a group of us packed up, climbed aboard our Highland Church bus and headed for the mountains for a weekend retreat at Camp Friendship. What a time we had, and what blessings we experienced. My closest friends went on the retreat. You may know them. There is AC Virtuson, of course. I suppose you could say he is sort of our leader and always seems to know what's right in every situation. The best athlete among us is Racer Loyalton. He looks something like me, except he's thinner. Booker Thriftmore is also athletic, and I was glad he and his father went along. His dad owns a repair business in Harmony. Mr. Thriftmore's hammer and saw came in very handy during the retreat. Hapford Humblin went too. He is the quiet type, but his simple wisdom is often something with which you can't argue. J. Michael Kindheart and Reginald Upright have the brains. It's always a challenge keeping up with them. You wouldn't believe the big words they sometimes use. Christy Lovejoy, Miriam Peace and Sandy McMurcy also went along. They are my friends too, but since they are girls, I don't spend as much time with them as I do with the boys. Then there are Ronnie Vane and Susie Selfwill. They live a few blocks from Highland Church. I will tell you more about them later. For now, I'll just say that they help us build our Christian character. The bus trip to Camp Friendship was to take about 2 hours, so Pastor Altruth felt that those of us going should pack up and leave as soon after noon on Friday as possible. Oh, I also forgot to tell you who our adult sponsors were. I hadn't expected Pastor Gentle from Harmony to go, but it turned out to be a special treat to have him along. Pastor Gentle loves the boys and girls, and he lives up to his name. He never has an unkind word for anyone. He is so wise and understanding. You know, the grandfatherly type, who always has a wise word to say. For every situation, you can't help but like him. Mr. Frenson, my learning centre supervisor, was in charge of the retreat, but he ran things by the clock. I mean that literally. What a guy. I saw a new side of him for sure. He has more energy than any of us, and I think he saved up some extra for the retreat. He also knows how to drive a bus, so he was our bus driver for the trip. Miss Content, who teaches the young children how to read, went to oversee the girls' lodge. Yes, a lodge is what Mr. Frenson called where we stayed. It sounds like a resort, doesn't it? But more about our lodge later. In order to go on the retreat, everyone had to have a permission slip signed by a parent. The slip clearly stated that we needed a sleeping bag, and we were each allowed a backpack and 1 overnight bag. It did not say how big a bag, however. Since we were going to be roughing it, it was recommended we each bring a flashlight and any other small camping items that might be useful. Hapford Humblin, with his big heart, had gotten permission to invite Ronnie Vane to come along. I didn't think it was a good idea, and I told him so. Hapford, you know that Ronnie is constantly teasing you and trying to get you into trouble. Why do you want to invite him when it might spoil your whole weekend? I warned. What better way to get rid of an enemy than to make a friend out of him? That's what Mr. Frenson always says. Hapford had done it again. With his simple logic, he had gotten my thinking back on track. You preach Mr. Frenson's sermons as well as he does, Hapford, I had to say sheepishly. For the rest of the weekend, I tried to remember that sermon. The truth is, that's what Camp Friendship is all about, making friends. In my mind, I could already envision Camp Friendship. I could see log lodges with curls of smoke floating up from their huge stone fireplaces into the brilliant blue fall sky. The trees would be alive with colour, bright yellow and burnt orange and sienna. Mornings would be brisk and refreshing, and the air would be full of small smells like hickory smoke, pine needles and dry leaves. Then, after a restful night's sleep, the smell of country ham, gravy, hot biscuits, maple syrup and eggs would welcome a new day. I had never been to the mountains where Camp Friendship is located, but I had seen pictures. As Pastor Alltruth described them, the peaks and valleys were rugged but beautiful, and especially breathtaking in the fall. He did recommend we take warm clothing since the camp was located at a high elevation. Camp Friendship. Well, I had never been there either. In fact, I hadn't even seen pictures of it. All Pastor Alltruth said was that it would be an experience we would always remember. He even said it might change our lives, as it had the lives of others I didn't know, but I felt certain the weekend retreat would leave us with many special memories, and it certainly did.